Hello everyone, Michael Bentley here. I'm going to show you how to add Nginx in front of Cribble in Docker for free. Step one, as usual, is install Docker. If you haven't done this already, go to docker.com, get the installer for your operating system, and follow the instructions to get installed. You'll probably have to restart your computer, so good time to bookmark this video, or subscribe to the channel, or copy it down into a note, however you want to do it. Just make sure you can get back to us after you do the restart if you haven't already installed Docker. All right, so then that'll lead us to step two. As soon as I catch up with my text here. And step two is going to be enabling or making sure that Docker's up and running. So go ahead and get to that right now. Multiple ways you can verify that Docker is up and running. I just launched this Docker desktop that you see over here on the right hand side. I make it full screen, and then I look down in the lower left-hand corner, and I'm looking for green. In this case, it looks like it says it's in server or resource saver mode. So I went ahead and clicked play, and that means it's running now. It probably would have worked fine as was. As long as it's green there, I think you're pretty much good to go. But nonetheless, we want to make sure it's running. So it's running. Step three is going to be pretty simple. We're going to create a new directory and a docker compose.yml file in there. So in Windows, it's pretty simple. Start, run, cmd. You may have to do it a little bit differently in your environment if you're not on Windows. But just let me know if you have any trouble in the comments and I'll guide you through it. I can do this in Mac, Linux, etc. But I just use Windows for ease. So just let me know if you're having difficulty in another operating system and I'll help you out. Anyways, here we go. Start, run, cmd. First thing is we're going to make a directory, and I'm calling this one Cribble with Nginx. So after that, we'll change directory to that directory, and then we'll create that docker compose.yml, just like we did in a previous video. This time we're going to actually go get content from GitHub and put it in this file, though. We're not going to copy it from Cribble.io's website, because we made some modifications to it to add Nginx in front of Cribble. So ours is a little special. I'll show you how that works right as soon as we create this directory and get Notepad open for docker compose.yml. So the GitHub location is actually my personal GitHub. Oh yeah, by the way, if you get the error message about the file doesn't exist, be sure to accept it. If you don't do that, then you can't actually move the notepad around or do anything in it. All right, so and we're going to paste the contents from GitHub now that we do have that file up and running or up and editable. And the location on GitHub is basically Bentley MI. It's my miscellaneous repo. And in there, I put a folder called Docker and a folder called Cribble. So full link or full URL is https github.com/Bentley MI/MISC/tree/main/docker/Cribble. Right, and we're actually looking for the docker compose.yml file that's there. So we'll add that to the end here, I believe, in my notes. Or actually, it just makes more sense to say copy the contents of docker compose from below. So I'll update my notes here, and then we'll go look at that file in GitHub. And I'll show you a way we can copy the contents really easy. So yeah, you can copy here, but sometimes things get a little discombobulated. So I click on the raw button over here on the right hand side, and that gives you a raw copy of the data or the file. So I can just copy that out, go over to my Docker Compose notepad, paste it in. Okay, we'll look at this real quick. Things we made is, or changes we made is we added networks to the Cribble original Docker Compose file. We added a backbone network, okay, and then we added Nginx service, okay, the image there and the ports we want to use. and also mentioning the networks there, and then the network's driver for the backbone network there is the bridge driver. So it's basically just going to make it where they can all communicate with each other on the backbone network inside of Docker. It won't necessarily make them exposed to the public or my local machine. That's what those ports do. But with the backend network, what it's going to do is all the ports on the backend will be available. So I should be able to do just about anything without any sort of firewall changes or port opening between my workers and my Nginx and my leader, etc. So here's the full command we'll run once we get that Docker Compose file saved. It's Docker Compose up-d and then scale workers 2. That's straight from Cribble's website. Now we're going to see it's going to pull the Nginx image as well as the Cribble image. Takes a little while here. If you've already downloaded these images, it'll be quicker. But in my case, I wiped everything out so I could show you coming from scratch what happens. So it pulls those containers or images into containers and spins it to containers. You see now instead of just having the workers and the leader, we also have an Nginx node there. So now what we want to do is create a new Nginx stream configuration, because out of the box Nginx is completely unconfigured, and the way we do that is use the docker exec command to get into the container. And I made a few mistakes here. Number one is I used the wrong docker exec command. I added a T there. But number two, I ended up not having the right host name here. So I'll try this command multiple times and fail miserably. That's why I like to say I'm a master of fail. I will make mistakes from time to time. In fact, I do it all the time. And being that this is a live demonstration, you're going to see some of those right here. Number one was the T instead of exec. It tells me there's no such container. And I had to go back and look at the container names I created. And for one, I added Nginx. Or there's the actual word Nginx after the Cribble with Nginx. And still, somehow I've got it wrong. I think it may have to do with the case sensitivity. I could be wrong, though. When I run this command the third time here, I failed twice, I finally get a success. All right. Oh, no, actually, I'm going to fail again because in this Nginx container, the image doesn't come with bash shell, so bin bash doesn't work. Third failure, fourth try is a charm, okay? Run it with the bin/sh, okay? And that's the binary for shell in this image. So basically, what we did was we jumped into the container, into a shell, all in one command. We're interactively in the image there with that -it switch. And we executed the shell command within that container. So now we have a shell, and we can use APK. This is Alpine Linux, this image that we downloaded for Nginx. And use the APK package manager. So there's a command there. It's APK add Nginx mod stream. And when you do that, you'll get the notification that it was downloaded okay, or if it fails, you get a failure there. Let me know if you do. Now we can move on. What we can do is create a stream.conf. Okay, it's actually one's already there, but we want to move it into the Nginx folder. And that's real simple. It's a move command. We'll copy it from the confd to just the Nginx root folder. Now, this is a trick I learned when I had problems getting stream going, so I think it's fine, but maybe there's a better way to do this. If you know a better way, let me know. The next thing I'm going to do is echo an include statement to the bottom of the existing nginx.conf. And I'm going to tell it to look for the stream.conf that's there. And basically, I gave it the path of the new one, and I'm going to put that appending with the greater than signs. That'll append it to that file. So this appends it to nginx.conf, this include statement. And we can verify that by running the tail command on that etc nginx.conf now, and we should see our stream.conf include statement down there. Okay, and that file should be there because we did the move command prior to that, and it was there to be moved because we did the APK command prior to that, which actually put it there. right, so now we're going to actually use a Vim editor, or VI, as some call it, to edit a new configuration file for the stream config in Nginx. So that's vi etsy nginx streamd 514.conf. Okay, and again, we're going to refer back to the GitHub link and pull in or paste in the contents of the 5140.conf from the GitHub link. Okay. In order to do that, we do have to press I for insert because we're in VI. Okay, and it's the first thing we'll have to do in VI. First, I think I'll go grab the code. All right, paste in the 514 file from GitHub. My notepad will catch up here in just a minute. I just want to make sure I get it all documented. Okay. So that was the Docker Compose file there that you see. We want to go over to the 5140 configuration file and look at the raw contents again. It makes it easier for us to copy and paste. Okay. And again, we should be in VI, and we're going to paste in what you see here. Some things to note. There's a server listen to tell it to listen on 514, a proxy pass to pass it to the back end. And then the back end is using the least connections to distribute it to our Cribble workers, 1 and 2, on the same port, 5140. And it's fairly basic load balancing configuration there using Stream and Nginx. We'll need to save this configuration file, so we do that by coming out of the insert mode with the escape key, and we type :WQ for write quit, and then we press return. So I'll show you that here in just a second. After I type it up here, okay, it's escape. You don't see that, but kind of the cursor moved a little bit, and then :WQ, I can highlight that. All right. So now you press return, and that will write and quit. So it's going to write the file and quit VAI at the same time. Perfect. Okay, so now we can look at this file just to be sure it's there with the cat command. Okay, there it is, all its glory. And now we want to test Nginx and make sure Nginx is happy with this configuration. There's a command for that. It's Nginx -t. And it tells us right here the syntax is okay and the test is successful. So that's a good sign. So now we want to reload Nginx, and that's Nginx -s space reload. At least as of making this video, all these commands worked fine. Your mileage may vary. You know, things change over time. You may be watching this 3 years from now and maybe a slightly different syntax here. But for now, that works. And it's reloaded all the worker processes for Nginx. And so now we can run a netstack command and just be sure it's open on that port. Now I've made a wrong switch to the netstat. I forgot to add the A in. Okay. So I get a little confused here, but catch my mistake. And A is for active, and N is for open, I believe, maybe. But now we can see, or listening, maybe. All right, and you can see it's actually listening on port 5140 now. Okay. And if that's the case, then our Nginx is configured good. Right? It's listening on 514. Now we should be able to configure our stream leader or worker group, in fact, to enable syslog inbound on port 5140. Okay, we'll do that, and then once we get it enabled, create the syslog configuration, make it enabled, we'll have to commit that and deploy it. Now, I did this in the prior recording, so I don't get to show you the commit and deploy right now, but I'll quickly log into Cribble and I'll show you where I have this configured already. So quickly over on Docker Desktop, I can expand my Cribble with Nginx instance there and open up the port directly. That opens it in a browser. And, you know, that helps me remember what port number I ran it on. In this case, it was 19,000, right? Okay. And I just refreshed for good measure, but it didn't ask me to log in because I already had a token in my browser. You may have to log in and register the product there. If you do, no problem, right? Just come in here, manage your workers, go to data, go to syslog, and make sure you enable the input that's there. There's a default in syslog input. Just enable that, and then change the port to 5140. So I had an idea. I said, well, you know what? I can't show them the save button unless I make a change. So I changed UDP to 514, and now I can save. Okay. Again, that's because I did it prior to the demo. I get to show you the full process here. But you can see after a minute it'll load that configuration. It'll allow me to commit and deploy it. It's slow on my local machine. It'll probably be slow on yours too. So we're in a virtual environment here. And I can sit here and wait for it to go. But I'll just show you since I've already set it up, committed it, and deployed it before. You can see it's there with the green check mark below. It's pretty much ready to go. So I just want to basically, you would commit it, you would deploy it, you would wait for the workers to restart, and you would have a green check mark next to your workers up there, the number 2, because you have 2 workers. And then you should have a green check mark down here under sources syslog. Now we can actually click on the live button and see data that's coming in. Now one thing I like to do is I like to change my capture settings to be 100 seconds or 200 seconds or maybe just 120, a couple of minutes, right? And then click on start. Okay, so that gives me a little bit of time to go do some things. And what we're going to do is we're going to move to step 7, which is watching the live data come through as we create some test traffic. I skipped ahead a little bit there, in the demo, I just went ahead and started collecting the data or watching the live data before I wrote it out on my notepad there. But doesn't matter. That's what we're going to do. Step 7, we're going to watch the live data. We're going to create some test traffic. We're going to start on the Nginx host itself. We should be able to run a curl localhost port 5140 and throw in some data there, right? And do that from the Nginx, which we happen to have running already over here. We last ran the netstack command in it. And when I run that test, let me move my window over here to the left so you can see it come in the Cribble on the right. When I run that test, you'll see it posts right through the Cribble, and you can see it come in live. Now, on the left-hand side, it's hung. I have to press Control-C to get out of that curl command. You want to do that too. But down below, we can see one of the things that passed this test. Now, it passed a bunch of other stuff that's associated with the curl command, like it knew it was going to do a post because I gave it the -D switch, some other things it did. But we got data. Okay, so now we want to test from our local machine through Nginx. Okay, I went ahead and restarted the capture over there in step 8. We're going to continue watching, right, or restart the capture. And then we're going to create some test traffic from our machine. So this would be like if we were coming in from the network, talking to Nginx, and Nginx is going to stream the data over to our worker nodes. Okay, we'll do that with PowerShell in this case because I'm going to use one of my favorite PowerShell commands. It's called invoke web request. You do that in Windows to start run PowerShell. And you may want to use another method to do this if you're not in Windows. But if you're in Windows, it's real simple. Start run PowerShell, invoke web request, and then we're going to give it the local host and port 5140 because that's what we're listening on. Okay, and as you can see, the data went through all the way to Cribble. Okay. So localhost 5140 is actually attached to the Nginx instance. And Nginx is listening on 5140, and then it's streaming the data to Cribble, workers 1 and 2. And here in our preview, we're getting data back from both workers. We see all the data come in when we run that invoke web request. It's similar to the curl command. So if you're in a Linux or a MacBook, Linux host or MacBook, you can just run curl instead of invoke web request. I just want to show the Windows users how to do that. If you enjoyed this video, share it with your family and friends for me. Okay, get the word out. Putting Cribble and Docker and learning this platform is easy to do. Maybe hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Give us a shout out in the comments. Let us know what you think about these training videos, please. Step 10, of course, is profit. Thanks for joining us today. It's Michael Bentley signing off.